Welcome back, you untitled group of people. Maybe in the future we'll come up with an actual name for you guys. This is episode 9 of the Pokémon Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Toby. How's it going?
Hey everyone, it's good. It's okay actually. I was just saying before the podcast, I'm in a grumpy mood, which is a terrible way to start a podcast. How are you doing?
I'm not necessarily grumpy, but I'm also not above average in positivity. I mean, sometimes you aren't. I mean, a lot of times I'm just normal in terms of positivity. I'm not always happy. Sometimes just you're living, you're vibing.
That's the nice thing about these podcasts is people get to get a little bit of a look at us when we're not, hey, Pokemon Masters, ooh, look how happy-go-lucky we all are. We're human beings. I'm not going to get into my things, but
yeah.
How are you doing? You want to talk?
Yeah, I'll definitely get into my things. But also, it is interesting to see whether or not people perceive my persona, my True Green 7 persona, as way more enthusiastic as what I am here. Like, this is my normal. This is how I usually talk. I am not as enthusiastic as I am on the channel, which is funny because people already think I'm chill on True Green 7. I wonder if they think I'm even more chill here. I don't know. I actually want you guys to comment in below because I want to know what your perception of my demeanor and my personality.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. Personally, by the way, I think you're pretty equivalent on both because I think the version of you on your channel is still really quite close to the organic you anyway. Yeah. But I got a really interesting tweet. Someone said to me, Toby, you speak differently when you're on the podcast versus when you're doing a video.
Interesting.
And I was like, I mean, yeah, because when I'm on the podcast, I'm Toby, creator of Birdkeepertoby. And when I'm on the channel, I'm Birdkeepertoby. And I think they're two slightly different things. You know what I mean?
So here's the thing. I've learned over the course of a few years that it's not that we are completely different in our channels. It's just that we exaggerate things that are actually present in our personality.
Right.
It's not like it's a completely different personality. We just prolong, let's say, the peppy or the enthusiastic part that does come out sometimes. Yeah. Let's say when I'm recording, normally I'll talk like this, but then all of a sudden, yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'll speak in my True Green 7 voice naturally because that's just how I sound when I'm enthusiastic for a few seconds. But I'm not going to be like that for 10 minutes. I'll be like that, every other minute.
That's you describing any anime to me ever. That's the voice. That's the voice you use.
So the same thing with you and your channel, where it's like you do sound like you do on your channel in real life, but only like every other 10 minutes, not like that for a full 10 minutes,
Right. And the thing is with the videos, of course, they're edited, right? They're edited and they're cut, and there's no world where I'm gonna actively put into a video like, hey, Pokemon Masters, Birdkeepertoby here, I feel rough today. I'm not going to film that day. Yeah. I'm just not recording that day ever,
Yeah, so it's not a different us, it's just the best us.
Yes.
For the one that we want to you guys to see. But just like how I want you guys to tell me, what you think about this, I want every episode to start answering fan questions. So literally every episode that you want to ask a question, just go in the comment section, ask us questions. If it's appropriate, we'll answer them in the next episode.
Please.
And yeah, I mean, we don't have a huge audience at the moment, so it'll be relatively easy.
Although, we will say a quick thank you to everyone who came over we did the episode recently with Patters, that would have been 2 podcasts ago as of you listening to this, and so many of you came over, and just thank you for hanging out and sharing the road with us. We'll be covering more Scarlet and Violet stuff, sort of, as it goes along, but also having more podcasts just like this, which is the mainstay. We don't want to just be a news podcast or anything like that.
And I love the way we did it last episode, where it felt like a normal episode, but all the Scarlet Violet news naturally came up. It wasn't forced, and we still got to talk about things that weren't Pokemon related. So I'm happy. I think this is going to be good.
It was a good show.
But so here's the reason why I am not 100% positive right now.
What's going on, man?
So, I mean, I've been going to therapy for my social anxiety disorder for 3 years now. It's officially 3 years, I think.
Wow.
2 years of that was during the pandemic, where I can't really have a lot of progress with my social anxiety because you can't really hang out with a lot of people. Can't start going on dates. You can't go out to parties. So I finally, a month ago, got a dating app and started scrolling. And then 2 weeks ago, I started talking to this girl, who was very nice. We were talking for like literally every day for hours, and then for a week and a half, and also we video chatted for like 2 hours. We set up a date. I asked her out. We had a whole plan, and then 3 days before the date, she just ghosted me. She just stopped talking to me. Don't know why.
I'm sorry.
So that's a thing that happens apparently now in my life.
I promise you that is not unique as an experience to you or to men or to women or to people our age or whatever. That is a universal dating experience.
It's crazy.
And it's horrible. I've seen it. I've got a couple single friends who keep me up to date with their life, and they're just like, yep, I'm out there on the dating apps, and like I'll be talking to someone, I think it goes really well. Or people who will go on dates and say the date went fantastically, and then the girl will just block them. Actually, no, I say the girl, whoever will just block them, because I know this happens to guys, this happens to girls, this happens in all types of relationships. And I know people who have been like, they've sent a text saying, hey, look, you haven't spoken to me in a bit, I'm getting the vibe that maybe this is silly. Are we continuing this because you've just sort of ghosted me? And they've replied going like, oh no, last date was great, still really interested in meeting up, just busy right now, and then not replied again for like a further month. And you just sit there and you think, what's wrong with people?
At least in that situation, they actually reply. So you just, maybe this guy, this person sucks, but and just doesn't know how to manage communication.
Maybe.
But in this current situation, for me, it was more like she was literally replying every single time with like paragraphs. She was totally into our conversations, and she was totally into the date, the idea of going on a date. And even the literal last time that we talked, we were having a deep conversation about the shooting in Texas. Now she's a teacher, and perhaps that maybe depressed her too much, and then she just did not have she wasn't feeling up, she wasn't up for a date because she was maybe that was on her mind too much. But that's just that's the only explanation I have, and I'm just grasping onto something. But
first of all, I'm really sorry that it happened, because it sucks. It really, really does, and the world of dating can be really, really harsh. And I'm sorry. The worst thing is, and I genuinely believe this, you've got to put your heart on your sleeve and get back out there again, and risk this happening like a dozen more times. And the worst thing you can do is go, like, unless you can look back through your messages and clearly see, oh, you know what, maybe I said something that was wrong. Okay, perfect. The worst thing you can do then is assume, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was that, maybe it was that. People have such a diverse range of reasons as to why they ghost people. Some of them are legitimate. For all you know, maybe an ex came on the scene, maybe something big happened in her family life.
Perhaps.
Perhaps she has a social anxiety that she may or may not have told you about.
She actually does have social anxiety. But
possibly the idea of actually it becoming real and going on a date.
Okay, the opposite for me. So for me, as a person with social anxiety, it would be the opposite. If it really was too much, I would just say it and be like, sorry, and that's it. It would give me even more social anxiety for them to now, the rest of their life or the rest of their month, think, oh, what happened to this guy who ghosted me? He must suck. Like, I wouldn't want them to have a negative perception of me, so I would end it in a natural and amicable way,
But some people are problem avoiders, Like, some people just don't, you know what? I don't want to go on a date. I've ghosted them now. The best thing would just be for me to just run away. And some people are like that. And you could sit there and you can guess like a million reasons.
Yeah.
It's not gonna. There's no joy to be found in guessing. I think, unfortunately, as long as you're sure that you were like, it was all good and you were all well, then move on to the next person, unfortunately. And I'm just sorry, man, because it sucks.
I was prepared for this already. I mean, it's technically happened before, but like, those were like, let's say I would talk to the girl for literally like 2 days and then she would ghost me, and then like, there wasn't a connection, so it doesn't matter. Or I expected it, I even expected to be stood up on a date, but this was more just like no explanation. Like, she was like, literally the last conversation was all positive, and then that's it. But
frustrating.
And with a girl especially with the girl who I definitely thought was very friendly and nice. Like that was the most positive in terms of the personality trait that she had. Like at least she was very, very nice. So that it was just the last person I thought would do that. I would even expect my best friend to do that. My best friend ghosts me every day. But like,
sure.
But it was just weird. It was there's no explanation. And then I'm the type of person that needs closure in a lot of like interactions. Yeah. But at least this is like all on them. Like this is not. I know I didn't do anything wrong, and I know that it is something I can't explain, and they just aren't in my life to explain. So that's it. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry. And that really is like it is just part of the dating world. I remember having conversations with people where I'd think, wow, this person's amazing, and look at us, we're joking and we're getting on and it's all going well, and then they just suddenly, after a couple days or after a week or maybe even just a single day, like I had some incredible one-day conversations with people, and then I'd message them the next day like, so what's up? And then I get nothing back, and you'd think, oh, was it coming on too strong? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
This kind of happens even more so with online dating, where it's like you have so many options, especially the women have like 10 times more options than the guys, at least on a dating app.
Sure.
They rationalize it as they have so many options. I can just stop talking to this person and talk to the other person that has piqued my interest a little bit more, at least in this given moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to generalize. Like, I'm sure for many women that's the case, but I think for many women that might not be the case. There's very much the. I think when you develop a relationship, no matter what side of the dating app you're on, when you're talking to someone, meeting up with someone in real life is a really big step in that. And I think before that point, there may feel to be an unwritten rule of like, I can cancel this at any point.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Nothing bad is going to happen.
But that's the problem. The problem is that I don't differentiate between online and real life. That's kind of the reason why I have social anxiety. We'll talk about that if you want.
Sure.
But like where I just don't see why I can't act the way I act in real life online and vice versa. Like why can't people talk to me the way they do in real life? I mean, I know the reason. I know psychologically why it happens, why people online are way different than they are in real life. But for me, I am not. And for better or worse. And I kind of expect that, unfortunately, from other people, and it just never happens. I just can't fathom it. I don't know how people can go online and just act in a completely different way.
Something I just mentioned about having friends who've been single for a while is that I've noticed with a couple of them, they'll mention that like, oh, they're online and it's seen as read, but then they've not replied, or they'll reply like 6 hours later, or that they don't check their phone like more than once a day, and I check my phone all the time, and like if I've got a notification I want to get rid of it. And it's been a hard thing sort of explaining to people, well, hey, but everyone uses their phone differently. Everyone's relationship to their phone, to social media, to their notifications is so varied and different, and I can't fathom anyone who doesn't use their phone the same way I use my phone.
True.
For communication, but everyone's got a different way of doing it, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything other than they've got a different way of dealing with it. But you mentioned, you said about your social anxiety, and you've brought it up a couple times throughout the podcast, and like I've not really wanted to ask, maybe because I don't know how much you want to talk about, but
I want to talk about everything about myself every second. I'm not like I go to therapy for. Sure. I've been going for therapy for a long time. I'm very used to talking about myself, and I love answering questions about myself. I love sharing about just anything I've learned, as you know, through the channel, and I'm sure you love sharing whatever you've learned. But yeah, it's more that like my social anxiety, at least my story, is just so big. I've learned so much about myself that I just don't know when to bring it up, because like I don't know if, let's say I also don't know if people want to hear it every episode, or just like
I want to certainly hear, at least when did you realize, oh, I'm a socially anxious person, and that's a thing?
So there's a difference between when I realized I was socially anxious and when I developed social anxiety disorder. So any disorder, as you know, it's when a trait actually negatively affects your everyday life, that's when it becomes a disorder. For example, everybody has anxiety, but if it literally affects you negatively every day, you have anxiety disorder. Everybody can be obsessive or compulsive, but if it's literally happening every day and it's literally harming your everyday life, that's when it's OCD. So when social anxiety, I've always been socially anxious. Before I had social anxiety disorder, I would be able to, I was in school, I would be socializing every single day. My life was pretty good, but I would still be anxious about it. But I was dealing with it. I wasn't avoiding socializing. I wasn't. Here and there I was, and that slowly builds up to the point where you notice you are avoiding everything, and that's when it becomes a disorder. But yeah, I was let's say avoiding going to this party that I was invited to, but then maybe the other party I would go to, or I would suck it up and talk to this girl that I like or whatever. But then after I graduated high school, once I went to college, I was all by myself technically, because I went to school again 40 minutes away from where I live, so all my friends don't live where I live. Sure. A few do, but even the ones that live where I live, everybody just left. They went to college or to a gap year. They all just left the town, so I was alone, and I also commuted to college, so I was just going to Manhattan and then learning and then going right back home, doing homework, like, let's say 30 hours a week, and also on top of that 15 to 20 hours a week working on the channel. So I was just not hanging out with people during this time where I was also alone, and also during this time where all my social interactions were online. That's when I started my channel, and I was just starting to hear every day hundreds, thousands of people's opinions of me, whether it's positive or negative. Obviously 99% of it is positive, but that's also a bad thing, just to have hundreds of people's opinion of you instead of actually hanging out with people and hearing real life people's opinions of you. That warps your mind, and you slowly develop social anxiety disorder, because like I said, I had a terrible time differentiating between how people act in real life and how people act to me in online. So I always thought, at least subconsciously, that the way people respond to me online is the way people are going to start responding to me in real life. So for example, how in online, let's say as a YouTuber, you can't say everything that you want to. Anything you say, people will misinterpret it, or they'll just find a negative about it, or the opposite. They'll overpraise you. They'll put you on a pedestal, and they'll be like, "Wow, Ron is the best thing ever. I love him so much."
Sure.
And then you bring that back to I brought it back to real life, and so I'm always hesitant. So before therapy, I was always hesitant to talk to people, because I'm always anticipating that they're gonna act the way that people do online, because that's how I was. Those were the kind of people I was interacting with for 4 years while I was in college, and I wasn't really hanging out with a lot of people.
Right.
And then I realized, after therapy, that that's not how it is. In real life, people don't talk, they don't act like they do in online. And that's what I meant when I said that, that I don't have the best or the easiest time differentiating between how people act online and
that's hard
in real life. Yeah.
That's hard. I think it's important to have a quite diverse array of characters that you surround yourself with in your life. I remember distinctly sitting in a pub with a friend of mine who, post university, we were having a catch up, and I can't remember what his job was. I think he was he was doing something in government, weirdly enough, which he doesn't do anymore, but he was working something in government. And, I'm a Pokémon YouTuber. These worlds are very far removed from one another. And what you're saying about, you're right, online, people are either overly critical, to the point where they're, just cruel, or they're overly praising you, and you're like, okay, it's just a video about Pokemon on the internet, whatever. And the humbling thing was having this friend, and I remember him saying to me, it was a silly, get a real job, haha, who cares, Pokemon YouTube. And, at the time, I remember thinking, well, okay, actually, it is something, but it's, fine, I get I got what it was about, which was, at the end of the day, what we make is YouTube content for people. It's content that they watch so that they might be entertained, but also possibly when they're just bored or don't have anything else better going on. And I think it's important to be humbled by that.
Yeah.
But then also to recognize that the overly critical things the overly praised things that you're being told are misplaced. But so too are the overly critical things, because at the end of the day, you're not doing anything so horrendous that you're literally making content about Pokemon. Like you're not ruining people's lives by doing so, you know?
Yeah, those are definitely things that I think about all the time. I've had a lot of time to think about, to come up with exactly what you just said. And Patters brought it up when he was here, which is that online first impressions mean everything, whether that's a good or bad first impression. And I subconsciously learned, for the worse, like this is not a healthy thing to think, but this is what I subconsciously thought, was that if a person loves me online, they'll really love me, because that's how it is on, when you get viewers. And if a person hates me online, they think I have destroyed their family. And so again, that translated to real life, where it's like every first impression now, I am too worried about it to the point where I avoided it, and I just didn't socialize because I put too much weight onto the conversation, when in real life, people only remember how you made them feel. They don't care what you said.
Can I want to share something with you that you might find helpful. And I had this thought at university. I remember the day. And I remember thinking, I was watching videos about charisma, a sort of charisma on command type thing, where it's like, hey, should I be smiling more? Should I make a joke? Should I make notes to make a compliment about something that someone's wearing? No, not what someone's wearing, maybe something they did or something they said. And then I thought about this. I thought about how I was overthinking the first encounters with people. Everyone, and I had this at my first year of university, and I retook my first year of university. I went from drama to film production, and in the film production, what I noticed was there was that anxiety for everyone who was there. But because I had already sort of done a year, I was a little bit more relaxed, and I was watching everyone dress, in the coolest clothes that they had, and to impress people and to look the hottest, or to make the quippiest jokes or whatever. And I thought, everyone's trying so hard, and they're all so worried about themselves. I'm pretty sure all I need to do is smile and be kind. Yeah. And no one's looking at me. Like, if they're so worried about themselves, they're thinking about how did I come off in the way that I was last year, that if I just come in here, I smile, I make a joke, like, we're fine, we're good. I can handle those things. And that was sort of the point that I stopped worrying so much about that. I'd be interested to know then, how have you come out of that, or have you? I still have
social anxiety disorder. I'm not going to pretend like I'm cured or anything, and I will always be socially anxious even when I'm way better. But that's interesting. I'm actually going to comment on what you said, which is
okay.
It's annoying. Naturally, after you said what you said, which is all you have to be is nice and smile, right? Because of the rules of the internet, which is that people will always also think of the exception and be like, hey, what about the exception? What if I'm ugly? Obviously, that's not going to work. They'll be like, people will always, whenever you bring up a solution or like a mantra, they'll always give you the exception. Oh, like for example, don't punch people or something. Like, just be nice, don't punch people. But then someone will be like, yeah, but what about Nazis? What about punching Nazis? And I'm like, obviously, yeah, I'm not. Okay. I'm not talking about Nazis.
About that.
Like, they'll always bring up the extremes.
We'll call it a rule of thumb, right? That's the thing.
And okay, so that's the thing, that people always think that mantras are too cliche because they don't work 1% of the time. Because you've heard it too many times. That means for some reason, just because it's oversaturated doesn't mean that it's not a good message. But that's the thing, is that a reason why I have social anxiety disorder is because I took all of those online rules, which is, that people also will bring up the exceptions, or people will always think about, people will always try to one-up you online. People will always try to find the negative of what you're saying, or try to prove you wrong. I just subconsciously thought that that's how people act in real life.
Right.
So whenever I'm talking to a person, I'm always preparing to give the exception. I'll be like, let's say I'm just talking to them, and I said, it was a nice day, but then I'm going to be like, okay, but what if they're going to be like, but but it wasn't nice for someone else, or like what I have to bring up like a
Right.
or like, oh, but it wasn't the best day ever. I have to always be balanced, or like to make it sound like that what I'm saying is general enough for everybody to accept what I'm saying.
Not being inclusive of people who are having a bad day when you said it was a nice day. How dare you, True Green 7?
Exactly. That's how I didn't logically think that's how people were going to be, but subconsciously because I had this learned response from interacting with people online for 4 years when I wasn't interacting with real people, that bled over to real life.
Interesting.
And that, again, is just another factor as to why I have social anxiety disorder. I like when my friends pick up any quirks of mine because I don't know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Because I have social anxiety disorder, I cannot recall what I was talking about, because let's say there's an awkward pause.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be thinking about, oh no, there's an awkward pause. And the longer this pause goes, the more I'm thinking about how awkward the pause is. And I'm not thinking about what I was trying to say. So I will never be able to recall what I wanted to say if I lost it, for example. And this happens a lot where I try to fill in the awkward pauses by just rambling. And I'm not going to make a coherent thought because I don't want there to be an awkward pause. Because to me, my whole social anxiety is about not making the other person feel uncomfortable. To me, awkward pauses are uncomfortable. To other people, it probably isn't because they don't have social anxiety. But I imprint my anxieties on other people. And that's the problem.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I do the same thing, but not out of anxiety, out of a need to entertain or perform. And I cannot, and it's the single area, whether it was at uni doing theatre stuff, or whether it was like I did a couple of hosting and casting jobs with Dan. Leaving a silence is fine. It's a normal part of conversation. It's a normal part of dialogue. Yeah. Allowing someone else to talk.
Entertainment and comedy, it's a good tool sometimes.
Right. I mean, even with this podcast, I struggle with, I'm talking. I'm not letting Ron have a chance to speak. But I got to get this thought out. And it comes from a need to fill that space, to make sure that there's no, I need to perform. And that's not always healthy. Having a good handle on pulling that back is actually really important.
I have a friend who I see like once every season or whatever, who triggers this aspect of my social anxiety the most, because he's very comfortable with awkward pauses, and he not purposely does it, but I've talked to other friends and they said, yeah, he lets you relish in what you said. So for example, I'll say something to him and then he'll think about it for a few seconds and won't respond. And to me, that's an awkward pause. So for example, when I'm talking to YouTube, when I'm talking about my job to this guy, I'll be like, oh, I'm a YouTuber, I'm doing this. I'll be like, oh yeah, I like the freedom of my job or whatever. And then he'll pause for a few seconds. And because I'm awkward, I'll be like, okay, think of something to comment on what you just said quickly. And then I'll bring up a negative. I'll be like, okay, yeah, but I also don't really like this aspect of my job. And I'll just, to fill in the awkward pauses, I will bring up negatives that I don't really believe in my job. And then I'm changing to him, now it sounds like I hate my job, because I'm just rambling about, I'm just trying to think of just different aspects of my job that subconsciously I can just pull out. I'll be like, oh, it sucks that people comment this, or it sucks that I have to do this for my job. When in reality, those aren't a big aspect of they're not things that I think about all the time, but I'm just bringing them up because I need to talk about something, and I'm now just rambling about how much I hate my job, when in reality I don't. But to him, it sounds like I do. And he's still not talking, and he's still not responding to me. So I'm like, I'll just bring...
He's trying to digest what you're saying. He's trying to digest what I'm saying.
And then I'll be like, oh, I may quit my job next year. Or I'm trying to look for another job. When in reality, I'm not.
You're just making stuff up at this point.
In my mind, it feels like he's like not judging me, but he's like, in reality, he's processing what I'm saying. But in my mind, it's more like, I think he's trying to respond to me and like give me tips on what I want to say or something like that. So I don't know. And so just for that person, it seems like I hate my job.
Do you know there's I think it must be a trope in media as well. Maybe you can think of a character. I can't. I think there is a power to silence, and characters who are really listening, who are really engaging in the room. Silence, everyone wants to kind of fill the space in some way or another. People who just listen, and then when they talk, people want to hear what they have to say because it commands such authority. And there was an example. I've just lost it. I was just thinking about it. Oh, that's it. It's an interrogation tactic as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally he's interrogating me.
The best way to interrogate someone is to let them keep talking. Shut up. Stop asking questions. Don't give them direction. Let them keep rambling themselves into a web of lies where you're talking about you want to quit your job.
What's funny is that people have told me that I'm that person in the past. Before I had social anxiety disorder, I was the one who, I mean, even now, because of my social anxiety, I don't say anything unless I know what I'm saying, unless I know what I'm talking about, unless I'm confident in what I'm about to say. And because of that, I'm not the big talker. I'm listening and I'm enjoying the conversation, but I'm only going to respond and bring up something if I am confident in what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the social anxiety where it's like, that's kind of the reason why my channel is all about Pokemon, because that's the only franchise that I am confident that I'm an authority in. For example, even if I would love to make an anime-centric channel, but I'm not an authority in anime, and I would feel super anxious every single video talking about, like, let's say, I don't know, Naruto facts. I mean, okay, I know a lot about Naruto. So let's say, what's a new show that I haven't consumed enough of to be an authority on? Okay, let's say Attack on Titan. Even though I'm a big fan of Attack on Titan, I don't know every single thing about Attack on Titan, right? So I would be super anxious releasing a video about Attack on Titan because what if I by mistake said the wrong thing here? While in Pokemon, no, I know that 99% of the time I'm saying things that are correct. At least I think they're correct. And that's a problem because I'm too afraid because people have put me on a pedestal for all my life. Ron's the smart one, Ron's the artist, Ron's, and even more so on YouTube, Ron is this awesome YouTuber that I love so much. I'm too afraid to just risk sounding stupid. And because of that, I don't talk.
That is such a shame because being stupid is human and it's a vulnerability that everyone can connect with you over.
True.
And it's difficult because the more stupid you sound. I mean, look, I take it from an expert in being stupid on the internet, but when it comes to like, I can say things. I said in a video recently, I said that Ash Ketchum was a rubbish Pokemon trainer, right?
Yeah.
I thought of it just as a little like quip, it wasn't anything, I don't care about Ash, this fictional character in that, or whatever. People got angry. People got fuming, Some people got really annoyed that I said that. I love Ash Ketchum, and I just thought, okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm a human being. I'm not pretending to be an expert on Pokemon so much as I am. I mean, I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So much as I am a fan of Pokemon, and that's what I portray. And then the people who weren't upset by that just see it as like a little joke and connect with me on a human level because, I said something, and even if it was flawed, it doesn't really matter. And I think trying to be the pinnacle of perfection online is a little bit of a game that you're destined to lose. There's a phrase for that. I can't remember what it is. Because we're all people, and while certainly to go full circle, Birdkeepertoby is not 100% authentic. Well, no, it is authentic, but it's not 100% of me.
Yeah.
It's but one facet of the complex me. It's I still try to put vulnerability and mistakes in there. Not that I try to put mistakes in there. I let mistakes be in there because I'm okay with portraying a human character, I think, is the important thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can relate to that because I will also sometimes let mistakes fly. But usually there are mistakes that are actual mistakes. So, for example, my number one trigger is people misunderstanding my intentions, misinterpreting what I was thinking or what I know. And that stems from, again, that I don't like to be patronized. So I don't like when people are telling me things that I already know of. So because of that, if let's say I by mistake said a fact in a video that I was wrong about, but I actually knew. Let's say I by mistake said...
Is it like when you say like, I don't know, Tentacle learns a move, and actually it's not Tentacle, it's Tentacruel, but whatever, like...
No, so if I misspeak, for example, by mistake I say Tentacle instead of Tentacruel, that's fine. That's totally fine. because that's an actual mistake, and I'm 100% confident that a normal person will think that will know that's a mistake. I'm a Poketuber. I know the difference between tentacle and tentacle. I've by mistake said I said Whimsicott instead of Cottony by mistake 2 times or something. I know the difference. But if I by mistake said something like, "Oh, Sceptile learns this move that I 100% knew that he knew, and I was proud that I knew that move, but it was obscure. It was obscure, but I knew it, and by mistake I came off as if I didn't." So I will get a little triggered when people try to correct me, even though nothing bad happened because of it. That's like on the minor scale. The most extreme is more like I say a thing, and now people assume that I don't even like Pokemon. Dude, I've pronounced Rayquaza correctly. Rayquaza is how you pronounce Rayquaza.
Yep.
People, this happened more than once, where someone would be like, "Wow, this guy isn't a real Pokemon fan. He pronounced Rayquaza incorrectly," even though they're the ones pronouncing it incorrectly. Because there are some Poketubers that Pokemon isn't their number one favorite franchise. They just are successful at talking about it online or playing it. Mm-hmm. While for me, no, I'm confident that I know about Pokemon. So when someone's now completely misinterprets my entire life and thinks that I am not even a Pokemon fan based on something I said, or that let's say I said something that makes a person think that I'm just a completely different person that I'm not, whether it has to do with Pokemon or not, I'll think about that for the rest of the day, maybe a week. That's a big problem of mine.
Well, just worried, is that really what people think?
Even if it's just one person thinking that, it'll bug me.
But okay, so here's my take on that, is that like, if you say to a room of 100 people the word kittens, someone's got a problem with it. Someone's allergic to kittens. How dare you say kittens and not consider them? You are an inconsiderate, terrible person for not considering that someone might be deathly allergic to kittens, and you just triggered that. And I'm not saying we shouldn't try to accommodate people, but when you're online and you have an audience of like 10,000, 100,000, a million people, and you say Whimsicott is the coolest Pokemon, you've just annoyed a lot of people without even really like meaning to. And
if I truly believe that Whimsicott is an amazing for me, that is my opinion, then I'm fine if people hate it. I'm fine if people hate my opinion. I'm not fine when people misinterpret my opinion. And now like, oh, that means grass type is Ron's favorite Pokemon and he hates all the other types. Which is not true. Yeah. That's my problem.
But you have no control over it.
Oh, yeah, of course. Here's another thing. You offering your insight on that, even though this is exactly what you should be doing, as both a friend and a co-host, you should be responding to what I'm saying. It kind of triggers me because you're.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. It kind of triggers me because to me, it's like you're patronizing me as if I don't know that that's real life. I know that that's how it works. I'm a Poketuber. I know that that's going to happen. And I know I'm an adult. I know that people have different opinions. Sure. So it's like, if it wasn't you, if it was some random guy that doesn't know me, I would be a little triggered in the back of my mind.
Okay, so now watch me continue to patronize.
Good. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
Continue patronizing me. No. I just want you to, because it's on topic. But that's why I have social anxiety. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. This is a very unhealthy thing to think. Of course. And that's my point. That's why I go to therapy. But that is what I think.
We're also, the other element of this, though, the context of this conversation is that we're having it on a podcast, which is designed to be listened to other people. See, I told you I'm going to patronize now. But so while I'm happy to, I'm not trying to patronize you. It's sort of, I'm having the conversation with you, but I'm also having the conversation so that people can hear it, so that other people who maybe haven't thought that will now think about that advice. And
True.
So. But you already know that. so we're caught in a loop now.
And that's why a podcast is a little better, where it's like, okay, I can just be like, no, he's talking to the audience right now. Even he knows that I know this thing that he's talking about.
I know that you know that. It's
Perhaps if we generate a Pokemon, you'll be able to talk about whatever.
Oh, smooth.
Whatever crazy thing is wrong with your mind.
I tell you what, I've become less grumpy throughout this conversation. I started with the grumpies, and now I am less the grumpies, because we've had a nice conversation, and it's just been nice to hear. Even though we're talking about stuff that I know affects you quite badly, I just think, oh mate, I love you so much. I think you're great. I think you're great.
But this is why I do like bringing up things that are very personal to me, because then I get to be a little riled up, and it's fun. I like being passionate about what I'm saying. I like telling my friend that he's patronizing me. I actually do like that. I like being honest. Obviously, you see, here's the stupid thing. It's like, I hate that I have to say, obviously I know that you can't just be a dick and just be mean to your friends and be completely honest. You have to be nice. You have to censor yourself a bit. That's not what I'm saying. I know how to do that. Stop patronizing me. It's more that I hate lying. So it's like, I think I'm bad at it. I think it'll make me socially anxious if I lie. So I just like when I'm able to say what I want to say. Obviously, I will tone it down because I know how to be a human. And I think everybody should be toning down their opinions. Just because something is true doesn't mean that you should say it the way. And you should always be considering people's how people are going to feel about what you say, not just what they're going to think about it. And that's why even if you're saying something that is true, sometimes it's more about sometimes people are not going to be receptive to what you're saying unless you say it in a nice way. And that's what you care about, that people are going to be receptive to it, not that they're going to know about what you're saying. That's the most important.
I know we're going to generate a Pokemon in a second, but it's so funny to me how similar we are, but like just for different reasons. Like, I get the whole, like, I'm a terrible liar. I hate lying. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't, but to the point where when I was a teenager, I remember dating and I'd buy like a secret birthday present, and I'd feel like I'm lying about the fact that I've bought someone a present and they don't know what it is, and I'm keeping a secret, and I don't want to keep a secret in a relationship. And so like it would genuinely bother me that I was like keeping a secret, and the person would be like, what are you talking about? That's a lovely thing. And I'd be like, yeah, but you don't know the truth, the whole truth.
Let's generate that Pokemon.
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay. This Pokemon is slacking.
Hey, okay. That's actually a cool Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's a good Pokemon to have as a generated.
It was funny because the whole time I'm like, okay, it would be hilarious if we got like a love disc or any other pretty Pokemon that represents love, and then a slacking, lounging who's doing that like paint me like one of your French girls pose. Like that's what I see right now. That's what comes up on screen, like this ugly slacking that's just like loafing around.
Slacking just loves life. Slacking, it knows what slacking's about. You know.
Slacking is one of the most unique Pokemon because it's the only normal Pokemon that has the stats of a legendary. I mean, Archeops is technically second to that, where it's like, Archeops also has like almost legendary stats because of its terrible ability, just like slacking. That's why I've always loved Archeops too. Not because of the ability, but Archeops is really, really strong, underratedly, but people don't want to use it because of its terrible ability. But the ability never activates because he's so strong that his HP won't go down, and then if you don't know, Archeops' ability, when the HP is down, below half, the stats go down too. It's just because he's defeatist. But his stats never go down because his HP doesn't go down because he'll attack fast and hard, and he'll never activate the ability. So same thing with slacking, where it's like, I've used the slacking in a playthrough. Because I'm like, this is just a fun Pokemon. I love Pokemon with a personality. I love Pokemon that have a gimmick that are at least strong. You just send out a slacking, it'll wreck house in one turn, and that's it. You don't really need the ability never activates really, because I'll use him last, for example, to just finish off.
Interesting. Okay. See, now I've never used a slacking because I've been put off by the ability, but actually what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think it's like a perfect boss Pokemon. The whole as Norman, who is your dad in Hoenn, and it's also Norman is a really interesting boss in general for Hoenn, because Hoenn is...
I love Norman.
It's a number of little interconnected circuits, right? And you get a couple HMs and they open up the world, but you know that everywhere you go, you're surrounded by water. Throughout the whole journey, you've been seeing these bodies of water. And the reward for beating Norman is that you get to surf. You get to put on your big boy shoes and explore the rest of the Hoenn region. And slacking is Norman's ace. It's such a big boss, and it's such a... being a normal type gym leader, you think, oh, this is so unassuming, but actually then you face slacking, and it's got strategy, it's got facade, it's got and it's like this perfect boss moment in Pokemon where you have come back home to face your dad to see if you're ready for the real Hoenn region. And I just think it's like it is a perfect boss battle in Pokemon.
You don't even know first. I'll tell you why you don't even know. Why you know nothing, Toby. But you're right. And I've noticed that all the normal type gym leaders are boss gym leaders. They're notable. I've had trouble, at least in one playthrough, with every single normal type gym leader. They either have the workup in Unova, like Charon's Pokemon or Lenora's Pokemon have a workup that just wrecks house once it you let them set up. I literally just started replaying Black and White 2, and I knew about the strategy that Charon was gonna use with workup. And it was hard to not let him set up. I was letting him set up for some reason. I don't know how it happened. It just happened, and then he takes down half of my team because of it. Obviously Whitney's Miltank is infamous, and then slacking, and then something about the Game Freak knows how to do normal type trainers, and I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think. Is it their HP and their HP stat? Maybe
there's a couple of elements to it. One of them is huge HP on slacking, Stoutland, and Miltank is obviously a big thing. Miltank has a lot of healing options, from the milk drinking, from the potions to the lumberry.
They have access to a lot of different kind of coverage too.
They've got a lot of coverage. Also, they're only weak to fighting type Pokemon, which is when you're designing your game. Like with Whitney, I've commented on the fact on the channel before that, like, if you want a fighting type move pre-Whitney, you're trading for the Machop that they tuck away upstairs in this Pokemon Center, and there's like, I think, an option for Rock Smash on a Pokemon or something. But other than that, you're not hitting for super effective damage. You're really not. And that's, I think, a big thing, because when you go into a gym, when you go into the grass gym, you know to take a fire, bug, flying Pokemon. But when you walk into the normal gym, if you didn't pick up a fighting move, it's about the stats. And the stats of these Pokemon are huge.
The thing that I wanted to say about slacking, because you said it, so it's the final test before the other half, or the real Hoenn region, is opened up to you. And I felt that to the max. I've told this story on my channel. I don't know if I've ever told you. Maybe I have, because this is like...
I think so.
This is a defining moment. I definitely want to bring it up in the podcast, where when I was a kid, second grade, I was 7, I was playing Pokemon Ruby, and it's infamous in Pokemon Ruby where after you defeat Norman, you actually have to go yourself to Wally's father to get Surf.
Right.
I did not know this. So for months, I was trying to get Surf. My friend who had Surf, who was playing the game too, could not recall how he got it. For months, I'm begging him I was about to give up. And if I didn't find Surf, my life would have been completely different. I would have stopped playing the game. I would have not fallen in love with the franchise. I would not have made my channel. My life would be... It would be really interesting to see what my life would be.
Wow.
But I brought it up like one day on a Friday going to class. I brought it up. I asked my friend one last time, please, do you remember where you got Surf in Ruby? One upperclassman heard me in the back and said, oh, the Surf HM, you get it from Wally's dad next to Norman's gym. And literally that day I came back home on a Friday, right before the weekend. I got Surf. I crossed the water in Route 118, and I heard the music, the new track, the Route 119 track that I will remember for the rest of my time. It's now the most nostalgic track I've ever heard. Maybe I'll play it in the background.
I can hear it mentally right now.
And now I was in the real Hoenn. And then I entered Route 119, which is now my favorite region of all, my favorite route of all time. It's a very famous route. It's the longest route. Like, it is filled with so much wonder. It's this rainforest route that I don't think any other route was able to emulate, because it was the only route to me till this day that feels like a real location. It feels like a real rainforest to me for some reason. It didn't feel like a video game route. It didn't feel like a Pokemon route. And till this day, even during the pandemic, I actually remembered this story, and I tracked down this third grader that told me this. Because I didn't know his name, I just knew how he looked like. So I looked at one of my friends who was also like a year older than me. I went through his friend group on Facebook, and I looked for this guy. based on what? This was like 20 years later, so he looks completely different.
Yeah.
But I just was able to, I remembered the face. I remembered the glasses, because he was wearing glasses, thankfully. That's a notable feature. And I tracked it down. I asked my friend, hey, can you make him friend me so I can talk to him and thank him? And then he did. I thanked the guy. I was like, because of you, my life is great. I have this channel.
That's so wild.
And he was very happy about it. I mean, obviously we didn't become like friends or anything, but like he was very receptive towards it, and it was a magical moment. Like, this was during the pandemic where you were encouraged to just reach out to people and talk to them because you couldn't go outside. This was like the first month of the pandemic I did this.
Wow.
It felt magical because with my social anxiety, I felt like, oh, I can just talk to random people and like I could just reach out to anybody I wanted to, and it will be a positive experience. That's what any kind of disorder, or I don't know, any kind of anxiety disorder that you have, or like phobia, it's all about exposure therapy. You just have to have some positive experiences like that, and that'll just change your opinion and perspective on things. Try to seek out positive exposure therapy to help with whatever you have.
I love that. And I agree, by the way, with that. I think doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, if you're doing it in a safe environment where you know, like, okay, the world is not going to end if I do this thing, and you just try it and then find out, okay, that was bad, but I make it to the other side, and you do that over and over and over again, you realize that it's fine. Although, to counter that, I've had, and I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, I've had the reverse experience with more physical fears, in that, like, have we talked about our fears on the podcast? I can't remember.
We talked about our phobias and fears on the last episode.
Yes, we did. And in that, I mentioned that roller coasters, and there's the Emirates airline in London where you go on the air rail, and every time I do it, it gets worse.
Really?
Which is the strangest thing, because I know I'll survive. I know I'll be fine, but I don't know why that's the only example. With psychological things, exposure therapy. With physical, I mean, I guess it is psychological, but I just don't want to touch it.
Phobia. But I think I brought it up in the podcast, but like, for example, yes, I have my phobias too. I'm arachnophobic, very scared of spiders. I should try to get some exposure therapy for that, but it's like, I mean, I've gotten better in terms of like catching a small spider with like a napkin or whatever, but I'm still very much afraid of them, maybe even more, because I'm hyping them up in my mind. I'm like, this is a thing that I'm afraid of, so every time I see a new spider, I'm even more afraid of it, because like, that's my enemy. And I think the phobia that I got worse in, because like arachnophobia, I think that was stagnant. I'm just arachnophobic. It hasn't gotten worse, I'm just arachnophobic. But for a phobia that has gotten worse is my fear of uncanny vehicles. So for example, I'm afraid of those planes that have completely different proportions. You know, those airplanes with giant like foreheads and
yeah.
It's definitely part of my megalophobia, which is my fear of giant objects that just randomly appear. Like, I'm not afraid of skyscrapers because I'm used to that. I'm not afraid of some of the bridges near me because I'm used to that. I am afraid of another bridge, because there is a bridge that's near me that all of a sudden it appears. You're driving the highway and all of a sudden this huge structure appears, and it's also like it's a very steep like drive up to like, it's a hill, like a large hill that I see in my dreams sometimes, that I go up this bridge that I'm scared of. While other bridges, it's not a surprise. I see them often, so I'm used to them. But if I, let's say, randomly come across like a lighthouse while I'm walking, like it happened twice. I'm walking in this affluent neighborhood with like mansions, because I like walking there, and all of a sudden there's a lighthouse right in the middle, because the affluent neighborhoods, like rich neighborhoods, they're always on a hill. And that's also where you put the lighthouse, I guess, because I live in New York City near the ocean. You're gonna put a lighthouse, and I am terrified. My heart starts racing. It's as if I encountered like a tiger on my walk, and I have like it was the craziest. It was the first time I had so there's panic attacks and anxiety attacks. One of those things are not real. Whatever. I have panic attacks for like megalophobia, and it gets worse and worse, because to me, those are things they're my enemy. In my mind, I'm so fascinated by the fact that I am megalophobic. I'm so fascinated by that the fact that, how am I afraid of a weird shaped plane, that I just hype it up, that I'm like, wow, this is just like this mystical creature that I'm afraid of and that I will always be afraid of. While I don't have panic attacks when I see a spider, because I'm way more used to seeing a spider than randomly seeing a weird shaped plane.
That makes sense to me. Honestly, I do. Yeah, I understand that. I think that may be the case with roller coasters with me. I completely understand that.
But yeah, as long as... So, for example, I was afraid of a specific bridge near me because for megalophobia. But then literally a few weeks ago, I I had a reason to cross this bridge, and literally I felt so relieved after it. It was such a good idea.
Really?
Because after that, I was just hyping this bridge up for no reason. To me, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to have a panic attack when I go on this bridge. So I always avoided it. But no, I went on the bridge. Yes, my heart was beating a little bit when I was on the bridge, but I was just listening to the music. I was like, just hum to the music that you listen to. I think I was humming to Jubilife City. So I was just like, dum, 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 while, like, the whole time on the bridge. And then I finally got off of it. I'm like, that was not as bad as I thought. So as long as you have a coping mechanism and a healthy way to experience this exposure therapy, like what I did with my, where I reached out to the person who changed my life, do that. What's funny is that I've always wanted to do a video about that experience. I brought it up on the channel, but I wanted to do like a story time video, for example. I've told you that I've always wanted to do story time videos. I've never been able to do it because it's just such a big endeavor. I cannot. And that brings me to this final topic that I think would be amazing to start talking about, because I've always wanted to bring it up in a podcast, which is video ideas that we've always wanted to make, but we just can't for some reason. And that's why we're going to be telling them. If I could make these videos, I wouldn't tell you, because then I don't want you to steal it. But I'm so confident that this is just a hard video that it'll take time to just think of how to do these videos. That's why I'm bringing them up.
Okay, cool. So, and this would be one of those with the bridges. I was gonna say you could tie it into the bridges of the Unova region.
Well, yeah. Anytime I have a story in my real life that I can tie back to Pokemon, I just want to make some kind of story time animation video about it. I think people would enjoy it. Like, imagine like Jaden Animations, but it's only Pokemon stories. That'd be awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's technically not even on my list. That's just because that's a general thing that's not a specific video technically.
Well, I've definitely got 2 or 3. I got 3 that I could talk about for sure.
So how about I have 5. I'll go. So it'll be me, you, me, you, me, you, me.
Okay, let's do that.
That's how it works. All right. So the first one that I had that I'm not confident enough to do it, and I'm not good enough of a dancer to do it. What is this video? This video is titled Pokemon Inspired Dance Moves. So, like, it's really fun. Like, yeah, like one of those like evolution of dance types of videos where it's just like 4 minutes of me just doing the Ampharos, and then I just do the Ampharos, then do the Rayquaza, and I do the Rayquaza. It'll be so cringy because I'm not a dancer or anything, but I got the confidence to dance on camera when I did it in one video. I did it in my top 20 Sun and Moon music video, and I danced to the apparel shop theme, and it was 100% positive reception. So I'm like, what if I made Pokemon inspired dances? I'm not a terrible dancer, it's just that I'm not a dancer. I'll find a way. If I can on my own just come up with dances and I think I can perfect them, maybe I'll do it.
You can't do it as a video, but this is actually perfect. You could do it as a podcast because no one can see you. So why don't you show me what the Magikarp would look like, and I'll describe to people.
Okay, here, I'm doing it.
That's the Magikarp. Yeah. No, I see it. There's a lot of splashing motion going on, which makes sense. I would have instinctually gone for the hand fin over the head with the big wide mouth. The cup. We had a great time. For those of you who are obviously listening by audio, we just had a great time. You all missed out.
This would actually work as a TikTok, honestly. Or like a YouTube short.
It actually would.
Perhaps.
It really would.
So that's my first idea.
I love that.
Is it stupid?
I love that.
We'll find out.
I want to see you do them Z moves. I want to see you bust like a corkscrew crash, you know?
Why hasn't someone done like a TikTok of all the Z moves? Like a professional dancer, Pokemon fan. That would be pretty entertaining.
I think just because the Z moves were like slightly pre-TikTok.
That's
and so
hilarious.
It's not like those worlds haven't collided yet. But if you were out there and you're a TikToker, a Pokemon TikToker, maybe, and a dancer, maybe now's your time to shine. Okay, well, look, I mean, my first one is, I'm actually going to go back to the oldest idea, because the moment you said this, there's something that immediately springs to mind, and it was something you were going to be part of. You might not remember this. So I did a series, I put together a promo poster when I started, this was in my first year of the channel.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You know I'm going to go with this. To Be a Master, a series in which I would collect interviews with a number of Pokemon personalities, and I mean, at the time, it was literally everyone. I somehow managed to slide into the DMs of everyone who was in the Pokemon scene and said, hey, I'm going to work on this documentary series. Is this something you'd like to be part of? And you said kindly, you said yes. It's probably how we met. I don't remember, but like it's how I met a lot of the YouTubers at that time. I'm grateful that I didn't go through with it because there are a number of personalities on there that shall not be named who I would not want to work with now at all. There's plenty, and audiences can guess whatever they like. But it was going to be inspired by the YouTube series Becoming YouTube, which came out in 2012, I think, which featured a YouTuber called Benjamin Cook go around London and interview a number of UK London-based vloggers at that time.
It's always a British guy with those kind of videos.
I wanted to do that, and I was going to I can either do it all over Skype or I'll come do like real-life interviews. Logistically, a project like that would be huge. I thought about reviving the idea.
Please do, honestly. I would love to be a part of something like that.
I mean, it would be super cool. I thought about reviving the idea in 2019 with "Welcome to Galar" was the heading title. It was going to be. I was going to go around the UK and like speak to a number of people. I think there was plans for Loxton to even come over. So it would have been 2020. It would have been after Sword and Shield. The pandemic kind of killed that.
And Loxton was going to do something similar too.
Yeah. He was going to come over. He was going to tour. I was going to tie it all together with that, but it didn't. Just logistically, that's a big undertaking, and getting the quality of it consistent across all the interviews and across skits and across everything else, it would be kind of huge. But maybe one day, that is the next. Now I'm talking about it. I'm like, well, maybe I could do that. Now the world's opening up a bit more.
I think during the time your endeavor was huge because you were trying to do the entire Galar. But now Galar is less relevant, so you can just go to like 5 places and be like, this is the thing, this is the thing. Like, it could be a way smaller scale because you're not obligated to not do this whole Galar themed thing.
Yeah.
No, this is actually related to one of my videos, actually.
Oh, cool. Go for it.
And what sucks is that this is the one thing here that I don't really want to talk about because it's still a legitimate thing that I really would love to do if I had the money or if I had the power. If it was greenlit by an actual like production company, that would be amazing. Which is a real world Pokemon like History Channel show. So on the History Channel, you have like a lot of things where you go to a place and you talk about the thing and then you say what historical thing happened in this place or whatever. I've always wanted to do this with both Pokemon and any franchise. Like, I wanted to go around and be like, today we're in this place. This is the site this is the castle that inspired the castle in Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Oh, cool.
We're here in this place. This is the look at this animal. This is the animal that inspired this creature in Pokemon. Or again, if this was, let's say, I could be like, oh, look at where we are. This is the people that inspired the dwarfs in Lord of the Rings. Jews inspired dwarves in Lord of the Rings, by the way.
Oh.
Well, we can talk about that in the future. It's actually a very good story. But like for example, oh, look at this language. Look at this famous book that inspired the language in Lord of the Rings or whatever. Look at this movie by Akira Kurosawa, this Japanese director. Look at this character that inspired Darth Vader. like you have already shows like this where it's like, we're here, we're going to try this food, or we're here, this is the site of the Great Pyramid or whatever. Do that with, fictional franchises, and specifically on my channel, Pokemon. I would love to do that. Like, high production stuff.
Yeah. How would you make it high production? Going to the locations, I suppose.
Going to the location, it'll also be shot like it's an actual TV series, which is not hard nowadays. You just need a specific camera. I know how to edit like a TV show. The graphics also of a TV show, like the kind of reenactments, and like, have you ever watched like a History Channel show where they show like reenactments or stuff like that?
Yeah.
A lot of like slideshows of like 2.5D images. Like in History Channel, they would like cut up like old photographs on Photoshop and separate the foreground and the background into different layers, and then like they'll zoom into it as if it was like a 3D image, but it's made of the 2D photograph that they have. Stuff like that. It's just high production stuff that I know how to do. But like it'll feel like an actual TV show. It's like 30-minute different segments, like 5 different locations or things that I'm showcasing in that episode. Oh, it would be so much fun.
I love that. You got to come over to the UK and do some gala bits then.
And that's the thing. I could literally do it right now with Unova, but nobody would care. I would be like, I've literally, that's my dream, to go to, let's say, Dumbo, a location in Brooklyn, and be like, these are the tracks. You see these tracks on the floor? Those are the same tracks that inspired the tracks in not Striaton, in Nakreen City, the second gym in Unova, where Lenora is. There are tracks on the ground. Those are based on the tracks that you can see in Dumbo.
I don't think you should write this project off as never going to happen.
It's not off.
Yeah.
It's just that it's literally would be the biggest thing I ever did.
Big undertaking.
And also nobody cares about that kind of stuff. I've done it already. I did like a Pokemon in real life where I went around my house and it was like, look at this chicken. That's what Torchic's based off. Look at this dumbbell. That's what Beldum is based off. Look at this. Look at this. More intricate stuff like that. Like look at this cool. Look at this. I mean, I did look at this spoon. That's what an Alakazam has, and I had like a 3D Alakazam behind me. I would superimpose the animated models of the Pokemon that I would animate behind me as I talk about them sometimes. And it was cool, but nobody cares about that.
It's a niche audience for sure. But there might be an audience for it, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Okay, well, you've kind of made me think about my next one, actually. Although, see, I've actually just remembered another project that... So I'm trying to work out which one of the two is more likely to resurface and not talk about that one. But exactly. You know what? Okay, here's the one. This is the one I think is more likely to resurface, but I do want to talk about it because it's way more interesting. But I still don't know if it ever will. Which is, I really wanted to do a documentary, but like from documentarians in the Pokemon world. So like, I'm Todd Snap with today is, with the thing. And what it would be is specifically, I wanted to talk about like a post Kanto region. Team Rocket has just been thwarted by a mysterious trainer with a Pikachu. No one knows who he is, where he came from, or where he went. Let's talk to the gym leaders,
dude,
to ex-Team Rocket Grunt, to all these characters. What do they see,
This is a Pokemon epic. This is a Birdkeeper-Toby Pokemon epic. You could 100%
and it might
do this.
still be. It might still be. I think it'd be really cool to, employees from the Selfco building that day. What did they see? What did they learn? What happened that day? Before they knew it, people in uniforms with big red R's are coming in, storming the building, telling them to get under the table. The next thing I knew, I heard, Pikachu! And suddenly, a kid, I think he had a red cap on, busted in the door and told us it was all okay before heading up through one of the warp panels. Yeah. No one knows who this mysterious figure is. The fact that they beat the league was amazing. Like, I want to do that documentary. It's like a 20-minute... super high quality mini movie, but
people have done
a lot
stuff
of
similar to that, but it's always a person who isn't a huge Pokemon fan, so there's a lot of cringy things where it's like that's a very Gen 1 thing to say, or that's like a very Gen 1 perspective on whatever happened. You could. That's the thing that, to me, if you told me you were doing that, I'd be like, yeah, you're about to do that. That's a thing that you would have already done. I missed the Birdkeeper-Toby epics.
I'm working on one next week.
Great.
Very excited about.
My dream is to be on one of them in the future. That'd be cool.
Oh, we will. We'll do. I mean, if I'm coming out to New York at any point, we'll do a Unovan.
I'll help you shoot that. I'll be behind the camera.
That'd be super cool.
My next thing is really similar, and it's I think every PokeTuber who at least has high production videos or likes to really make quote unquote quality content has thought about, which is a parody of Planet Earth, but with Pokemon.
Yes.
And everybody's wanted to do that. Everybody's wanted to get an animator to animate all the Pokemon into the environment and make a mini documentary and get someone who sounds like David Attenborough. And it's literally, that would be too, that's you need something very high quality. And technically Pokemon has already done stuff like that. So it will just look like not an imitation. It will just look worse than what we've seen. There have been Pokemon Go commercials that have parodied that. We've Detective Pikachu. So it's the CG Pokemon will never look as good as Detective Pikachu if you make this fake documentary about Pokemon. So, but that is the dream.
Yeah.
That is the dream. If I could get a bunch of PokeTubers to help me out, and we just, who cares which channel it's on, but we just get a huge team to do it. I would, and I could animate the Pokemon. I don't know how to I mean, I know how to model, but I'm not a modeler. I'm an animator, and that's the problem. That I would need someone to actually model the Pokemon, or at least take the models from the game and give them high quality textures. Maybe the textures from Scarlet and Violet will be finally good enough, and we could just use those models.
I've definitely, that was always the challenge when doing Pokemon Epics, was to, like, the earliest videos of mine, you see I've found the 3D model online and then downloaded it, and it's in the T-pose, like spinning, rotating on an axis.
Yeah.
And that's always been the challenge initially. Detective Pikachu kind of blew out of the water, like, that genre. So now I focus more on, like, environmental effects. So I did this one about Regigigas, and at the very end, there's the final shot is a Max Raid den, the light beaming into the sky, and making that look and feel really cool. That's what I focused on. I thought if I try and if I can get the walls of this cave to look like there's paintings on, that has as much of an effect, probably better, than if I actually try to animate a Regigigas walking over the horizon, because I'm just not going to do it as good as Detective Pikachu does it, You
could easily do just the shadow of a Regigigas, for example, looming over you. You could have done that. I think in the next time you do an epic, you can definitely consult me with some things that like cheap ways to add effects or something.
I'll tell you after this podcast, because I got something coming up. Okay, well then this final one is it was actually a big series of Pokemon Epics that it's never going to happen now. I can confirm it with certainty. But back after Sword and Shield came out, before new Pokemon Snap was announced, I wanted to do a Todd Snap 6-episode Pokemon Epic in which we would follow new vlogger Todd Snap as he lived in his new place in Wyndon, and the constant threat of Dynamax Pokemon. And it was inspired by a video that I did about the most deadly Dynamax Pokemon. I thought, well, if Regice is freezing cold, if there was a giant Regice moving through a city, how would that be an apocalypse? And if it was a Macago, how would that be an apocalypse? And the goal was to have do a number of scenes in London with Poketubers, with like a new Poketuber every episode, and I had everyone kind of scheduled in and booked out, and it was all ready to go, and I'd have a different Pokemon would be the feature of the episode. What happens in a icy apocalypse? What happens in a rampaging dinosaur apocalypse? If it's wheezing and it's toxic gas, what happens in a pollution apocalypse? And each episode was focusing on a different kind of kaiju destroying the world, and I scripted the whole thing. I put months into it, and the day that I was set to film, do the very first bit of filming, a little skit for it, it rained really, really badly. And I'd arranged for viewers to come and meet up and be in it. And to the viewers, and I said, look, let's just go hang out in this local kind of bar, and we'll all just chat and talk Pokemon cards for a bit. And so the filming didn't commence, and it was October, and nights were coming sooner, and the sun wasn't out for long enough, and a lot of it was had to be shot outdoor. And I thought maybe I should start shooting in March, April. And then new Pokemon Snap got announced, and then by the time March, April rolled around, I realized that I was putting off the projects and putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and I thought, I'm never going to do this. This isn't. I don't. The mood, the atmosphere, the want to have this creative outburst, it's gone. It was 6 months ago.
Yeah. And
I did make a video after they announced new Pokemon Snap. I thought, it was right before the announcement. I made a little sort of like mini-sode about Colossal. And it was, it was fine. It was very high quality. It didn't do very well.
Yeah, that was like one of the few Birdkeeper Tobys that I consciously will always remember bombing, because I was like, this clearly was an inspired video, and it sucked that it bombed.
And what I realized is that actually the fact that I was stopping and starting and stalling over this project was stopping me going on with other projects. And so I had to say, I'm bidding it. I might reuse some ideas from it at some point, but I am effectively scrapping this project completely so that I can free up my brain to work on other stuff. That one unfortunately is never going to come around again. But who knows? We might yet see giant apocalyptic Pokemon walking through London in the future. I was actually, for that one, I was very specifically as well, I wasn't going to do 3D modeled Pokemon. I was actually going to get the Ken Sugimori art and superimpose that into real environments, because I thought, you know what, why try and do the big 3D model thing? Let's have fun with it. But we had some tests of it done, but it just never quite came to fruition. But it was what it was, a long lost project of mine. So yeah, tell me about yours, man. Your last one.
For some reason, I don't know, we didn't do it in a correct order, so like I have two left, but they're literally the shortest ones, so it's fine.
Okay.
One time, I listen to a lot of Pokemon music. I have a lot of covers and remixes on my phone. Literally like 3,000. Not 2,000.
Still a lot.
Still a lot. And one of them is, I have a lot of like medleys, for example. I love Pokemon medleys, so like a lot of different covers of multiple themes at once. I have one that's an orchestration. I mean, technically multiple people have done orchestrations of like Sinnoh medleys. So like it'll start with like Rowan's introduction, and then it'll go to Route 209, and then it'll go to Jubilife or whatever. And I was listening to that one day while walking, and I'd be like, what if I like cut like footage of Sinnoh like footage over this medley and made like a Sinnoh region tribute? And I've always wanted, ever since, to make like Pokemon region tributes where I get someone to like make an orchestrated medley, like a 3-minute medley of like this, like almost like a trailer for a region. And then I get really epic footage of the most epic footage I can get of every region and put it to individual region tributes. That would be epic. But what would be the point? Why would people care? like what?
I think you're onto something with that. I don't think that's a throwaway idea, and I'm going to tell you for why. I watched there is a video called Game of Thrones Honor, and it's a supercut of every time in season 1 that the words honor is mentioned to a track that is very inspiring, and it's like this tribute to the theme within the show. And I remember that video years on, and I'll like go back and I'll watch that video because I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think like a little 3-minute like tribute to the region would be really nice.
The question is, what do we start with? Like, I'm not gonna now. I hate how I always, if I want a series that will go through multiple regions, I always have to start with Kanto, which is like the most boring out of everything. And it's like, and if that flops, then I only just made a Kanto tribute, and it was for nothing, because that's not the region I want to do.
You want.
So then if I start one I want is like Unova, but why would I randomly release a Unova tribute? Unova's not relevant right now. So it's like, Sinnoh was relevant, it would have made sense, but now it's already passed. I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe you guys have, any ideas in the comment section. I just realized that you guys could have input on this. But my last idea is not even Pokemon related. It's going to be the one video that isn't Pokemon related on my channel that I could do and that I would want to do eventually, that I still could do. And that's an essay video about my social anxiety, which is basically like a draw your life, but only specifically about my social anxiety. And I want to do it, and I probably will do it once I feel like I have entered the next step of my life where social anxiety isn't, where I've gotten a huge hang on my social anxiety disorder. Maybe I'm also in like a committed, like a long-term relationship. That's also, I think that's when I will do this, where I can finally like introduce like a long-term girlfriend. That would be pretty cool. I
think that's an idea that will happen. I think that's something that will definitely happen one day.
Yeah. So that's the only, we're ending off with one that I will 100% do, but probably the one that I will do last out of all the ideas here. Hopefully not last. Hopefully it's tomorrow.
Hopefully soon. Hopefully very soon.
But you know what I mean.
Very cool. Yeah. Oh, hey, I love that. You know what? I've cheated. I did think of another one that got cancelled. But I don't know if that messes everything up.
Yeah, that kind of messes everything up, Toby. Shut up.
Well,
stop talking.
Yeah. Then there will be no more ideas from me. I was thinking I should do like a 1 week in New York where I try to find a store selling...
I don't give you my address, you have to find me.
I have 1 week to find Ron. I have 1 week to race a number of other YouTubers to find a retro pack of Pokemon cards being sold at retail price. That was it.
You can definitely find it, but not at retail. I don't know. I've never searched.
There was that whole thing with Leon Hart with the under the shelf. There was like the packet of cards from like 2000. They found a base set 2-pack. I just thought it'd be really cool to like race a bunch of Poketubers and see who couldn't find like a.
That's related to what I want to do. that I didn't put here because I don't know why.
Wait, you've got another idea too?
Technically, one that's related to that. We can combine our ideas when you're here.
Okay, let's do it.
A scavenger hunt, a Pokemon-related scavenger hunt in New York, but I would need to be with other people, and the problem is, how am I going to participate if I make it? But that's where you come in. If like you participate in it, and maybe you and another Poketuber, I'm the one who makes it, and then we do this video. We film this scavenger hunt around Manhattan, let's say, that is Pokemon related. That'd be really fun.
That sounds amazing. I'd love that.
But yeah, those are ideas. Don't steal them. If you do, I will sue. Is this legally? If when you say it out loud in public, is that legally binding?
I think so. I think that just made it legal to.
It's not copyrighted, but it's at least I could sue you.
And we will, for even if the project doesn't do well and you're better at it than us, we'll take your money.
Bye.